But since we've talked all things politics here on Rational Radio as well, we have another guest here, Mayor John Fetterman from Braddock, Pennsylvania. He joined us on the program a couple months back, and he's here to join us once again. Mayor Fetterman, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be back.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for giving us the time. And, of course, you were at the debate at Hofstra University, the much-anticipated first debate between Donald Trump and Secretary Clinton. We know in the primary you endorsed Bernie Sanders, but after Secretary Clinton was announced to be the Democratic nominee, you supported her, saying this is too big of an election to sit out. I think the general consensus for many people was that Hillary Clinton won the debate, but I think Donald Trump started off fairly well, at least in my opinion. But I want your initial reaction of the debate, and you were there in person.
Yeah, I absolutely was, and I can just tell you that, first and foremost, I was very grateful to the Clinton campaign to invite my wife and I. It was a great honor to go. And the debate, I agree with you. Hillary Clinton clearly won the debate. Hillary Clinton was clearly well prepared and demonstrated the kind of presidential demeanor and disposition that I believe she would bring to the White House. But I also agree with you that Donald Trump, at least in the first 20 minutes or so, even though there's no actual sincerity or history of his concern for it, made some effective superficial points regarding free trade, and I about fell out of my chair when he talks about forgotten cities and forgotten places, things that I've been made the center of my campaign. But I think they are effective, or at least its best chance at capturing Ohio and making a play for Pennsylvania. So just because I don't believe that there's any sincerity on his part behind it doesn't mean that it's not a threat that I don't take very seriously, and want to do everything I can to make sure that that's not a reality.
At what point in the debate do you think Donald Trump started to lose it?
I just think that whether it's him being cavalier or not preparing or thinking that he can hot dog it like he did all his other debates, it's just eventually the wheels just came off, and he digressed into more of the kind of antics and buffoonery that marked his Republican debates. And when there's 13 other people on the stage, you can get away with it. But when it's just you, Hillary, and 81 million people watching, there's nowhere for you to hide. So that kind of withering scrutiny and intensity, he just went back to his default position and interrupting and saying goofy things and referencing some club he opened in Florida as evidence of his inclusivity towards all racial groups. And it's just there were so many bizarre tangent and one-offs in the campaign from him that I really lost count. So but the one thing that he did do during that debate, as we talked about, is reference the free trade and the jobs lost and those kind of communities. So, but any fair-minded person would say that Secretary Clinton won that debate. Whether or not it'll have a major impact on the polling or the race dynamic overall, I don't think anyone saw in Donald Trump. Any of his supporters saw something that they would change their minds, and all the Hillary supporters, myself included, only felt a great deal of pride, and she pulled off a really excellent performance. So, but I don't believe it was a fundamental game changer, but I do believe it stopped the momentum that Trump seemed to have acquired after her bout with pneumonia, and I think it resets the race with 40 days to go, and just reminds people of just how different these candidates really are.
We're speaking to Mayor John Fetterman of Braddock, Pennsylvania. Mayor Fetterman, Ryan Frascella here. You almost took the words right out of my mouth. That was going to be the next question that I asked you, is who you thought this debate actually helped, if anyone. Coming out of the debate, people don't really seem like they saw anything from either side that would make them switch one way or the other, but I have noticed a few more people actually said that they are now firmly voting for Jill Stein or Gary Johnson. What would you say to those people who are thinking that they might go an alternate route?
If they live in Tennessee or California or Washington State, I'd say, vote whoever you want. But if you, as a college student, you live in Pennsylvania, you're registered to vote in Florida or Colorado, you are literally working for Donald Trump if you're going to vote for Jill Stein or Gary Johnson. And I don't say that lightly. Gary Johnson, was a governor of a small state of New Mexico 13 years ago. When asked what he thought of Aleppo, he had no idea what Aleppo even was or is, or knew it was even a city. And then recently he talked about why he doesn't care much about climate change because the Earth is eventually going to crash into the sun, at some point. So why bother? So, if there wasn't enough to disqualify Gary Johnson based on his experience and other things, he certainly has provided ample reason to do that. Jill Stein, when she loses this race, she'll be 0 for 12 in her life, and she's never really run for a race and won. And she has no business running for president. And it really represents, I think, vanity run amok for someone in her situation to be running for president when we have a supremely qualified woman who's ready to step up and be commander-in-chief. And if you go to Jill Stein's Wikipedia page, you have Bernie Sanders and her matching up 99%. But Hillary Clinton and Jill Stein's use matchup 91%. So there's really no justification. And I would point out, if you're a Bernie supporter like I was, Bernie Sanders has endorsed Hillary Clinton in a full-throated manner. So, don't take my word for it. Don't take, all the Republicans that won't endorse Trump and are endorsing Hillary. Bernie Sanders endorsed her, and there's just too much at stake to make a protest vote of your precious vote that we need every single one of them in places like Pennsylvania and Ohio. So I would, and again, I know better than anybody. I ran the most progressive campaign in my race, and I came up short. And I have been campaigning and doing anything that I've been asked to support Katie McGinty's candidacy, and as we discussed, the full-throated endorsement of Hillary Clinton's campaign as well. So, I know the sting of coming up short as a progressive, and as a progressive, these are two outstanding candidates on their own, and then they only get even better when you contrast them to what the alternatives are, whether that's Trump or Pat Toomey.
And sticking on that thread of another person who came up short, Democrat Howard Dean, he had a controversial tweet after the debate. It said, "Notice Trump sniffing all the time, Coke user, ? What did you make of that tweet?
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know, because if it was a joke, it's not funny. If he was being truthful, it's very Trumpian. I certainly it's one thing to have fun and poke, the absurdity of what Donald Trump is and says sometimes, but to accuse somebody of abusing cocaine, that's borrowing a page from a playbook that I certainly wouldn't want anything a part of, and the Democrats shouldn't be. That's as the First Lady said, when they go low, we go high, and I question the trajectory of that question or that statement by Mr. Dean.
Joining us on WHIP Radio right now is Mayor John Fetterman, the mayor of Braddock, Pennsylvania, giving us his input on the race for the White House for 2016 and more. Mayor Fetterman, in your last answer before the Howard Dean question, you referenced Pat Toomey, and of course he's running up against Katie McGinty, and poll after poll, whether it's Franklin and Marshall, Quinnipiac, this is going to be neck and neck, and it seems like it's going to be so till the very end. And at this point in the campaign, Senator Toomey is still yet to endorse Donald Trump. We even saw that Ted Cruz recently endorsed Trump, and that was after the bloodbath of that primary between those two candidates. So I want to ask you, do you think at all in this campaign will Toomey end up endorsing him? Because I've been at some of Katie McGinty's events, specifically 2 weeks ago at the University of Pennsylvania. I covered it for WHIP when Katie McGinty, Senator Casey, and Senator Elizabeth Warren were speaking, and they were calling it the Trump-Toomey ticket. But yet he's still yet to endorse Donald Trump. Do you think Pat Toomey will eventually do so, or is he going to just ride this out and not do so?
Well, I just made a tweet about that today. There was an article in Politico that said swing state Republicans dump on Trump, and I was like, hey, pump the brakes, Politico. Pat Toomey hasn't. In fact, we don't know what Pat Toomey really thinks of Donald Trump. So will Pat Toomey endorse Donald Trump? Man, I honestly, at this point, I don't think it even matters, because he's let Donald Trump say some of the most misogynist and racist and xenophobic things, and whether it's an eating disorder for a Miss America pageant contestant, or whether it's a Gold Star Muslim family whose son made the ultimate sacrifice for his country, for building a wall to keep out in, time and time. The fact that Pat Toomey still can't definitively say, I'm on Team Trump, or I find this person's views abhorrent and not consistent with Pennsylvania values. The fact that he refuses to make that choice, and we're 40 days out, I think says all you need to say about Pat Toomey. And whether I don't know what's worse. He's that cold and calculating and poll and focus group driven that he won't make a decision, or he is morally flexible enough that he can compartmentalize all the terrible, horrible things that Donald Trump has said, and his lack of experience and his train wreck performance in the debate, and say, well, you know what, he's a Republican, and I'm going to take one for the team. But to sit on the fence, I'm not aware of a single other Republican senator that is sitting on the fence. I think everyone's either come down on the, Ted Cruz, I think, was the last holdout. Maybe John Kasich, but Kasich's not a senator; he's a governor. So,
did Senator Mark Kirk not disavow, but didn't Senator Mark Kirk out in Illinois?
Mark Kirk disavowed Donald Trump. He said he's voting for somebody else. I forget who, or he's writing in someone's name.
Mm-hmm.
He's not voting for Hillary, but he's disavowed Donald Trump, and Pat Toomey refused to make that. And I tweeted out this idea. It's like, when is the media, particularly the Pennsylvania media, going to be like, Pat Toomey, where do you stand? You can't keep kicking this can down the road. Either you are on Team Trump or you are not, but you can't get a little bit pregnant. Either you're on board with this buffoonery or you're not. But the fact that he's waited this long, I think, is really damning, reflective of that lack of core values that are important to Pennsylvanians.
Mayor Fetterman, John and I were at the Donald Trump rally in Chester when he came, and that was the first rally of his that we had the opportunity to go to. And we were walking around and talking to people about why they like Donald Trump, and we actually found a group of people who were wearing shirts that they called themselves the deplorable mob, certainly in reference to Hillary Clinton's comments about the basket of deplorables. What did you make about those comments when she first said them?
Well, I just look at those as something that Hillary has expressed regret with the way that came out, and Trump supporters aren't deplorable. If they think we should ban travel on Muslims, they think I don't think Secretary Clinton meant that the people themselves are deplorable. I just think that Donald Trump has espoused some really unfortunate and toxic views, and I think that's what she was referencing. So, of course, they jumped on that and tried to turn that into a cling to their guns and religion moment, like they did with Obama. And it'll have the same effect ultimately as it did for Obama. So, voting for Donald Trump doesn't make anybody deplorable. I think if you're voting for Donald Trump, out here in southwestern Pennsylvania, it's because you're desperate and you've watched your town really struggled for the last 30 or 40 years. So, and I think Secretary Clinton is sensitive to that fact. I think the primary was incredibly helpful, even though I know it was a difficult one, in helping point out to her just how important these trade issues are and just how important inequality is in America.
That's Mayor John Fetterman from Braddock, Pennsylvania, joining us here on WHIP Radio, Philadelphia's #1 college radio station. Just lastly, real quick, Mayor Fetterman, when you were at the debate, we know your attire, you don't typically wear the suit and ties. What were you wearing the night of the debate?
I was just wearing my usual black Dickie shirt and a pair of shorts, and my wife was like, they're not going to let you in, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, come on, sure they will. So, and of course I got in, no problem. So I was proudly repping southwestern Pennsylvania, and it was a great honor to be there. And it was certainly something that I'll never forget. And it was amazing to be in the same room, which was really, kind of small. It wasn't big, and these folks are standing right in front of you, and 84 million of my fellow Americans are sitting home right now watching it. It was really an incredible experience.
Well, you got to witness history firsthand there, and thank you very much, Mayor Fetterman, for joining us here on WHIP. Hey, we hope to have you on again soon.
Back on, and
absolutely.
Thank you for having me, and anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.